I'm just setting up this meeting. So 1 more minute and we are good to go after that. Okay, this is done. Okay, so if everyone can hear me, just give me a thumbs up. Okay, perfect. I know that. So let's see if you're waiting for more participants or we can begin right away. I think we should wait 5 more minutes. Meanwhile, we can just talk to each other. So let me tell you what this is all about that I'm taking the session today. I have some things ready for you just in case you don't understand some things. I have a whiteboard right here and my pens are ready and I might be explaining some of the things with writing on the whiteboard. Plus, I really want this session to be interactive, which means that I want you to give me answers. I want you to give me your thoughts about things. So how would I know? So you can raise your hands. There should be a raised hand kind of button if you browse your Zoom, or you can also post questions on the chat with every concept. So after every concept, I would be writing it down. For example, I have a raised hand from Swati Jain here. Okay. Let me also check how this works because I don't want to miss your messages here. Okay, I have a message of Jai Janendra from Agamya. Jai Janendra. And someone is asking if these classes are being recorded and will be shared after the session. So the answer to that is yes. It tells us here. Okay, can someone raise your hand and let me see how it looks? Hitasha, do you want to raise your hand and show me how it looks? Okay, so it shows there. I can lower a hand. So Hitasha, I lowered your hand. You got it, right? Okay, perfect. That looks good. Okay, Hiti says I can't unmute myself. You are unmuted. Oh, right. You cannot unmute yourself because I'm the host, so I will have to unmute you, right? So when I click you to unmute, that's when you will unmute. Got it? Give me a thumbs up. So right now I have unmuted Hiti. Yeah. Now you can hear, right? So it's up to me to unmute you or not, right? So if you raise a hand, I'm going to check those and I'm going to unmute you. Okay. Okay, back to work. Okay, so everyone, let's start our class. And this is a very important class because we are learning some very interesting concepts from the Acharyas. And what we are doing in this session is learning about magical stuff. How is magic created in the universe? Magic is created in the universe through science, through let's say through cosmic energies, through whatever you see in the cosmos, floating matters, living beings, all these together create a state which is known as an essential, which creates and which makes up this world. So we're going to talk about who creates this magic in the universe and the science in modern language that we use to understand these concepts is physics. So what do we learn in physics is about atoms and molecules, and how do they affect our reality, and how do they interact with one another, and is there any way that they interact with the living beings. So we're going to discover some amazing facts which have been told to us by our acharyas. Now the question is, how do acharyas know about all this? So acharyas have a very, very special kind of knowledge, and our knowledge is very, very limited. For example, if you ask me if I remember every single sequence of my birth, or every single sequence when I was 1 year old, I would say no, I don't remember anything from there. No one will ever remember that, right? Why? Because we have a limited we have a limited state of knowledge in our present condition. But acharyas are different. The Muni Maharajis and the acharyas who are actually working towards opening up, they are using the most gray matter in their brains. How do they do that? By their meditations, by their energy, how they increase their energy. So their gray matter is the most exposed, and they are in a state where they can have a special kind of knowledge. And this knowledge has got a name which is known as Avdi Gyan, or also known as Manaparya Gyan. And then as they move forward, as they progress towards more and more higher purity of their soul, they also attain an ultimate knowledge which is known as Keval Gyan. You all must have heard about the word omniscience. So that's the word. And when it comes to omniscience, it is a very, very special kind of knowledge which can even know and every single attribute and property of an atom. We cannot see the atom from our eyes, right? Can we see the atom from our eyes? No, we cannot, right? So there are also very teeny mini molecular structures around us. We can't really see everything. We can see only tangible objects which are bigger in forms and nature, which have bigger and large bodies, kind of thing. So we can see only those kind of objects, but we cannot really grasp the very teeny mini subtle particles of whatever is floating in the universe. But the omniscient knowledge has the power of actually knowing every single particle of the universe. And it is from their knowledge, and they're known as Kavalis, it is from their knowledge that we have come to experience our world. And some of this knowledge has been passed down from generations, like ages back, millions of years back, through and through, to people, to layman, and then it has been transferred by Muni Maharajis in our Kal into particular text format. And they came up with this idea of creating a Bible of Jainism, which is known as Tattvartha Sutra. And Tattvartha Sutra has got um, it's like an indicator sutras which gives information about anything and everything in the universe. It talks about physics, it talks about chemistry, it talks about cosmology, geography, it talks about microbiology, it talks about consciousness, its existence, and scientific way to understand these things. It talks about attributes of or attributes of the nature of substances, how to identify them, and what is the nature of what is the ultimate purpose of our living. It talks about even the moksha. So it has got all those procedures listed down in the Tattvartha Sutra. Today, we are going to take the 5th chapter of the Tattvartha Sutra, and it is known as the matter or the essentials. So we're going to learn about some essentials which are non-living entities. But because it's non-living entities, we have to differentiate from the living entities. So we will be very small talking about the living entity, but mostly we will be talking about the non-living entities today. So I would say these are like really, really important things, and I'm going to present it for you right now. I want you to really make notes so you can keep it and treasure it and relate to it as you grow older. When you begin to understand the higher text by yourself, these notes will be really, really eminent in your understanding. So let's begin the presentation now. My share screen option right here. Let's go here. Okay, so we are going to talk about essentials today. Okay, so what do you think this world is made up of? There would be answers coming from everyone, like it is made up of air, water, fire. There could be many things people would be answering, right? So Hiti, I'm not going to question you because you already know the answer. Okay. So what is this? Okay, we have an answer from Arjav Jain here. Let me see how to really unmute you because I can't see the participants here except for uh, give me one more second and to see where to find. Okay, Arjo, I'm unmuting you right now. Okay, my simple question to you is, from the science, what is really the, according to science, what comprises the universe?
Like, so what makes the universe basically?
Yes, according to modern science.
Atoms, matter, basically.
Atoms and matter, basically, right? And okay, anyone else has any other creative answers here? There could be many answers coming in. If you watch yourself, what do you see around you? You see forests, you see vegetation, you see plants, you see air, water, and oceans filled up with water. So you may say that the earth is made up of land and water, right? That could be an answer. One may say that the world is made up of air, and it's made up of living beings, like we are there inside it. You of course see us there, and then it is a mixture of some other essentials like the tattvas, which people say about as fire, wood, earth, water. These are the bodies that make up the universe. Or someone may say that it's the universe is coming from the big bang blast, and it's like all space inside and outside, and it's like a cluster of stars, and the universe is all filled up with these galaxies and planets, and that's what it's made up of. So yes, these all answers are correct, but we have to categorize them in a proper way in order to understand where exactly we are getting these answers from. So look at what Acharya's insight is about these essentials. Okay, so before starting and talking about essentials, Acharyas want to talk to you about something very special, something which is known as large matter bodies. So let's talk about these right now. So we have 5 entities with very large bodies. What does a body mean? A body means a structure. You see, like I have a body, you have a body, right? You see this pencil has got a body, right? And then there are many things which have got bodies, but of course, because some of these entities are not visible to human eyes, so we may say that we don't know about it, but they still exist. Modern science talks about a media, which is like an ether, something which is in the space, which helps the movement of these objects in the space around, and also within the space. And they call it ether. That was like old science, but now there is new science talking about different things like gravity, electromagnetic forces, and then there is what do you say, different kind of pulls and pushes, the climatic changes, everything else around us that creates the atmosphere of the universe and the environment, right? So look at this, what our acharyas tell us about. There are 5 entities which have got large bodies. We're going to understand what these large bodies are in a few minutes. But before that, take into account that there is motion essential, there is motion essential, there is halt essential, there is a space essential, there's a matter essential, and there is a living essential. Okay, so what does this mean? That means that the earth is comprised of certain essentials, which is they would always exist no matter what. And one of them is motion. So it talks about an entity which is more like a gravitational pull, something will not allow you to just fly up in air. It will pull you to the universal energy, universal grounds, the earth grounds, like gravitational pull. For our earth, that might be true, but this motion essential is also present in different planets. It's also there in the Mars, and it's also between this in the space in the universe between the different planets. And we are going to learn exactly what are the properties of this motion essential. But it's got a very large body. It's got a huge body. It's got a body that can go to the extremes of the universe. And similarly is the halt essential. So this halt essential is also like, if you have heard of friction, it's like when a ball is rolling by itself, after some time it will naturally stop, right? We think that the ball has stopped naturally, but actually it is able to stop because of this halt essential. If the halt essential was not there, probably every single object in the universe would still be in a rolling, moving state, and we can never halt. We all would be floating around in the universe and flying, and whatever we want to do, we would be doing that. But no. So there is also the halt essential, which allows us to pause our motion, halt our motion to come to a stop. This is what, and what is the size of this halt essential? Acharyas call that it is also a very large body entity, which means that the halt essential also covers up the space which is in entirety of the whole universe. There's not even a single point in the space which does not have halt essential. It covers up every single extremity. Space essential, very interesting. It has a very large body again, and it of course covers up every single thing we see around. There's not even a single point in the universe which doesn't have a space essential in it. And there is a very special property of the space. The space provides space to us. It provides us a place to be. That's what its quality is. Sadly, science has not yet come to the space essential. It doesn't really realize that there is something known as space essential. It just feels that it's just the objects and the conscience, its nature to just exist, but it doesn't know where does it exist. It exists actually inside the space. And if there was no space, then probably none of these essentials would exist. So there is a huge, large matter particle body, which is known as a space essential, and it covers up the entirety of the space inside the universe. Okay, so that's the quality of the space essential. Matter essentials, we all know about the matter essentials. I'm going to move my cursor so you all can see what's happening up here. So what is the matter essential? Matter essential is every single object that you see around you, whether it's tangible or it's intangible. It could be in any other form, but it is all matter. We know it, right? From car to house to chairs to spoons to pencils to bags, to roads, to just name anything, to aeroplanes, to um, uh, just name anything. Every single thing that we see around us is matter. Correct? There's so much matter we see around us. So the matter essential is, of course, as we see, one of the entities which occupy the space inside this universe. And the fifth entity, which is also a very, okay, for the matter essential, it when it becomes tangible, remember what I'm saying, that when this matter essential becomes tangible, it is only at that point it becomes visible. And when it is visible, it, be sure it has got a large body. For example, the body of this pencil, I would also call it a large body. Why? Because it becomes visible to my physical eyes. So this is a large body. So anything which is not perceived by the eyes would be the minute body, but it exists. It can be measured through certain instruments in scientific labs, but maybe cannot be seen or perceived through our physical eyes. But the matter essential is all that we see around us everywhere. What about the living essential right here? So the living essential is as number one, but so many living beings around us that we see, right? We see insects, we see birds chirping around us, we see animal stories from these discovery channels and stuff. Varieties of animals out there, variety of amphibians, variety of aquatic animals, variety of reptiles, so many living beings around us, right? So and also, like, when you go very very minute, and if you know Gen philosophy, so, and it's also proven by science today, that the water is also a living essential. It has got emotions inside it, and if you say I love you, the water responds back to you with love. And if you say to water I hate you, the water responds back to you with the same hatred. So how do you know? It's like when you go to the lab, you would see that the water particle which has been given a hatred vibration becomes its molecular structure, or its formation of the crystal, when crystallized, it becomes very deformed and ugly. But when you send vibrations of love towards water, it's and when you see it in a crystallized form, beautiful crystal of like amazing symmetry gets created. That's how we know that the water is also a living essential. And then there is earth is a living essential. The crystals that we see around, diamonds, emeralds, rubies, sapphires, crystals, the earth itself, these are living essentials. How about other living essentials? The fire has life. It breathes. It can't exist without the oxygen. So we all know that fire has life and it is a living essential. And then we have vegetation. Everyone knows that it responds to us, when you play songs near a small plant in your room or house, the plant will grow so happily and healthy and so nice. But look at the plants and the trees which are growing on the side streets of a highway. They don't have much life, and they have retarded growth also. And they respond to the climatic changes and the environment where they are growing. With peace and happiness, their growth is strong and happy. And where there is more chaos, the plants actually grow with a lot of anger, rage, and chaos. So that's also proven by science today. So the living essential also forms, and it is a large body entity. We can see it, right? We see the living essentials everywhere around us. And because the living essential takes the form of the body in which it enters, it becomes visible to our physical eyes. So these are five entities which have very very large bodies to talk about. Okay, so anyone has any questions about this? You can raise your hand. I'll give you a second. Okay, let's move forward. Perfect. Give me a thumbs up. Okay, I have a lot of thumbs up here. Let's go to the next slide. What are the essentials we need to understand? I'm always all the time talking to you that these are essentials. What really is an essential? So let's talk about and understand in depth what is an essential. The essentials. Number one, let's go to the first point. Essentials are substances that never, ever, never, ever, never, ever leave their nature, no matter what. Okay, if I tell you that drop your nature to know or to gain information about things around you, would you drop your nature? Can you drop your nature on will? You can never do that. Your nature is to know, to understand things, and you would always be doing that. If I tell, suppose if I request this pencil, hey pencil, can you drop your nature of a smell, or of a color, or of a form, the pencil will say, no, it's not possible. That's what I'm made up of. I'm a matter particle. I cannot drop my nature. I will always exist with my nature. That's a different thing, that my colors may change, but I would still always have some or the other color. My smell might change, but I would always have a smell, one type or the another type. So it will never ever drop its nature. So if you tell a halt essential, hey halt essential, can you really interchange your properties with the motion essential, and instead of making things stop, can you make things move? The halt essential will say, no, that's not possible. I'm made for that. That's what my nature is. And I would always, always exist with my nature. So that's what the halt will say. I will always stop you no matter what. Help stopping you, right? A motion essential, you tell it, can you do the reverse work, which is stopping? It would say, no, I cannot. Can you tell a space essential, can you stop giving space to everyone, please? We don't need any more space. Space will say, no, that's not possible. That's my nature, and I would always do you, whether you like it or you don't like it. So all these essentials have their retain their nature no matter what. That's why they are known as essentials. Is this definition clear to all of you? What are the essentials? Essentials are substances which will never ever leave their nature. They would always retain it without any exception. Second point about essentials. Essentials have got properties and states. What does that mean? Again, look at this. Look at this hair buckle right now in front of me, right? So what essential is this? It's a matter essential. Now, how does it exist? It doesn't exist without its properties. It doesn't exist without its form. What does that mean? That means that it has got certain properties. It's got a smell, a taste, a color. That's its properties. It would never ever exist without this property. We just learned that, right? But what does a state mean? State means that it would always have some or the other form. Suppose this buckle breaks down and then it goes into a recycle. The recycle will refurbish it. And when it's refurbished, another new piece would come out from its existence. And probably this turn, it might take a shape of a spoon, a plastic spoon, right? So it would always have a form or a state. Okay, but these states can be changing. That's okay, no problem. But the important thing is essentials will always have properties, and they would always have forms. Whether these forms keep on changing doesn't matter, but it will always retain some or the other form. That's the second thing about the essentials. Give me a thumbs up. Is that clear, or you need more examples with that? Let's move forward. Third point, essentials are eternal. They would never ever die, no matter what. They would keep on existing. No one can destroy them ever, ever. No one can. Hey, look at this buckle again. Okay, you say, hey, auntie, I can destroy this piece. Well, yes, you can destroy its current form, but it will take another form. You cannot destroy the form itself. It would keep on changing its form. It would take, maybe it turns into an ash. It still has a form of an ash. It would always have a form. It would never ever, it can never be destroyed. It would always be maintained, but it can keep on coming to existence in some or the other forms. It cannot be destroyed. Can someone destroy me? Can someone destroy you? Well, no, no one can destroy you. No one can destroy me. We are consciousness. We are also essentials, the living essential. If we are an essential, we are eternal in nature. No one can ever destroy us. No one can ever destroy us. Okay, so what about the space essential? Can someone destroy space? I mean, people talk about anti-space, that there is a place where there's no space and the space is destroyed in that area. No, dear, there's not a single space in the universe or the entire universe where the space doesn't exist. It will always exist, and it's eternal. No one can destroy it. It will always maintain its entity, its existence. Okay, so their qualities will always be there inside them. What is my quality? My quality is to know and is to observe things. That's my innate natural quality, and no matter what, I would always retain that quality inside me. Okay, so what is the nature of, say, a halt essential? To stop, right? That halt essential, which occupies the biggest space in the universe, the big space in the universe, extremities of the universe, no, it can never be destroyed. It will always be there no matter what, and it will never leave its nature, right? And it's eternal. No matter what, these essentials will keep on staying where they are. They're not going to change their space. They're always going to be there. They're eternal. They're infinite in nature. Is that clear to everyone? Any question on that? Yes, what's your question?
What if you know, like you were talking about the buckle. What if you like burn it in flames?
Okay, the same question Anusha is asking here, which means that if this is burnt into flame, I told you, right, it will turn into ash, but ash would still exist,
But what
right?
if
And then that ash would become earth, and probably that earth would be molded back again into some form or the other form at some period of time, doesn't know when, so it will always exist. Got it? So it's eternal. Nothing can ever be destroyed in the universe, which is made of these essentials. It would always, always be there. So my question to you is, can this universe ever destroy? Can this universe ever dismantle? Can it end sometime? I know this is the mind-boggling question which science is asking every time and researching like crazy on it. But the Jain Acharyas have an answer, because this universe is comprised of these essentials. No way, it will never end. It will always be there. Yes, it can deform and form back again if it is in the form of matter. For example, the universe, the earth is matter, right? It can deform and formulate back again in some or the other form. It would always, always stay there, but no matter what. Get that? For example, if you go to the history, you would see that we were not so many continents. We were all connected together to each other, and there wasn't so much ocean in between. And so when the land was connected, there were no continents. And over ages and ages and billions of years afterwards, suddenly there was water rising, and water started breaking these continents into different, this huge land into different parts, and different continents started emerging, started coming into existence. And then what happened? Did the land finish? No, it always existed. Now it exists in some other form. Before, it existed in some other form. Similarly, the earth right now exists in this particular form. Next time, and as the time moves on, it can take another kind of format, which is like inside the universe, what we see things around us. So these are always, always constant in nature. So let's go to the fourth point, which is essentials are constant. Okay, we understood a few things here, and the most important and the last point about the essentials is that these are constant. What does this mean? This means that number one, we know that their nature is always retained, right? But they would always be six in number. There's never going to be a seventh essential, because there's no more space for the seventh essential. That's fixed. Everything is right there. The motion is doing its work. The halt is doing its work. The space is giving space. The time essential is there. The living essential is there. The matter essential is there. Everyone is doing their own work. There is no space any left for any seventh essential, or there is no requirement left for any seventh essential. These six essentials are by themselves quite sufficient to sustain the universe, and that's why they are always fixed in number. There will always be only six essentials in nature, never a seventh one. Okay, you can't even devise or imagine. If you devise or imagine something, trust me, it would come under as a subcategory of any one of these essentials itself if you go deeper. So they are always six in number. That's why we call that essentials are constant. And they would always, always be occupying a space. I told you the motion essential, the halt essential, they're all occupying huge, huge amount of big bodies, occupying huge amount of spaces. The soul right now inside me is occupying such a huge space right now in front of me. They would always occupy, so they would always be constant. They would always exist. There wouldn't be any point of time when they will not exist. Okay, so that's why they're constant. They're always fixed in number. Okay, so we talked about essentials, four important things. I'm going to repeat it quickly. Number one, essentials will never, ever, never, ever leave their nature. Essentials will always have some properties and some kind of forms that they would keep on changing. Essentials are eternal. They would always, always exist. there wouldn't be any period of time which you can call as void when there are no essentials existing at all. No, there's no such thing. Essentials will always maintain their existence. So they're eternal in nature. Essentials are constant. There would always be only 6 essentials in the world. They're exactly that number in the whole universe. So they are constant in that ways, and also constant because they occupy certain body space, and that body space that they occupy is also constant. This applies for different essentials, but not for the soul or the matter, the living or the matter essentials. Why? Because living essentials can occupy different sizes of space. Matter can also occupy different sizes of space. Like a big cloud is occupying a big space. A small car is occupying a small space, but they would always occupy a space. They're constant. Okay, so that's what this means. So, how many essentials are there? Okay, I have a raised hand here from Hiti. What is your question? Let me unmute you 1 second. Okay, what's your question?
I don't have a question and I didn't raise my hand.
Okay, Vita. No problem. It's still showing that you have raised your hand. I don't know from the participants. Maybe it's from the old. So let me put down this one.
Okay.
Okay, let's move forward now. How do I unmute you? You're unmuted now. Okay, perfect. Let's move forward. So there are total how many essentials? Look at the last portion here. There are 6 essentials all together that comprise the universe. What are the names of these 6 essentials? The living, the matter, the motion, the halt, the space, the time. These are the core 6 essentials. In the large bodies, I was talking about only 5 essentials. Which essential was missing in the large body? The time essential was missing. So right now, when I'm talking about 6 essentials, the time is right here, right there in this section. Okay, and I'm going to tell you as we move forward why time was not included into a large body entity. We have a question from Arjav Jain. You're unmuted. Talk to me.
I lowered my hand. I had a question.
Okay, you got it? Perfect. Let's move forward to the next slide. Give me a thumbs up. Everyone got this concept? Got it. Essentials. 5 of these essentials are devoid of structure. That means it cannot be perceived by our physical eyes. We cannot see them. We cannot touch them. They're not tangible. We cannot hold them. We cannot put them all together. We can do nothing about them. Why? Because they don't have a structure. What does this mean? This means that they are intangible in nature. They don't have, their structure is not made out of matter particles, number one. That's the main reason why we can't catch them. For example, maybe, some examples that we can think that we cannot catch is, if I tell you to catch a ray of sunlight, can you catch it? Well, you may say, no, I cannot catch or grab a ray of sunlight, but actually the ray of sunlight is still catchable by some or the other scientific instruments. But there are certain essentials which are absolutely not catchable because they're not tangible and they cannot be seen with the physical eyes. And these are the living without the body. So the pure soul, the living entity, these don't have the structure, the motion. Why do I call the living doesn't have a structure? You can say that, hey, I can see you. You are a living entity and I can see you. Well, the answer is that you can see my body. You cannot see really the living essential which is inside me. You cannot even capture it. You cannot even read it through any kind of physical instruments because it is not tangible in nature. It cannot be captured. It doesn't have a structure that any physical instrument can catch it. You know what the secret is? Physical instruments are made up of matter particles, physical reality. How can a physical reality instrument catch something which is not physical in nature? It's not possible. They cannot, right? So the soul, cannot be known or captured by any kind of physical instrument. Because it doesn't have that structure. However, it takes the form of the body it goes in. Suppose it goes into the body of an ant, it would take up the shape of the ant, and you might say that this soul is small. Well, because of its body. This soul can go into the body of an elephant, and you may say this is a large body. Why? Because it took up the form of that elephant, right? But can you really see the soul? No, you can only see its body. That's why they're devoid of structure. Motion essential. Can you catch? You want to move from this place to another place, okay? Like I want to move my hand from this place to this place like this, right? Can I catch the motion essential? Can I really capture it? No, it's not possible. Even if I capture it, it's there. Even around it, it's there. It's existing every single point here. You can't really grasp it. And there's no physical instrument ever made till now that can catch it or that can attribute towards its existence. That's the sad part. So science would always be backlogged. Why? Because it would never ever know the existence of the motion essential or the consciousness, the soul. It would never ever know the existence of the halt essential or the space essential. It can. You cannot see space at all. You cannot see the space essential. It's not tangible. You can't catch it. Time essential. You can't catch it. You can read it. You can read time through clocks or how the time is passing by, like yesterday or tomorrow or today. But can you really catch time? No one can catch time because this essential doesn't have a structure, it's not tangible. So these are known as non-physical substances. They're not physical in nature. The only thing which is physical in nature is matter. That's why we have written here 5 essentials are devoid of structure, which are living, motion, halt, space, time. But it's only the matter which is an exception, and it is made of a structure. It has a structure. You can catch it, you can hear it, you can move around with it, you can see it, you can taste it, right? All these things you can do with the matter, but none of these things you can do with the soul. Can you taste a soul? No, you cannot. Can you hear a soul? No, you cannot hear the soul. Can you hear the space essential? You cannot hear the space essential. They don't have the structure. They don't have these properties. You can't hear them. Clear? But yes, how do we know about it then? Because we can feel them, we can experience them. That's why we know about them, right? We're going to talk more in details exactly how we know about them through our experiences, but we can't really capture those things. Got it? So, to our next slide, now we're going to start talking about the matter. What is this world made up of? And what is this matter really? Let's begin. Give me a thumbs up if this concept is clear or you have any other questions with me. Let's move on. Thank you. The matter essential. Number 1, it is material in nature. It is physical, right? It's got physical properties. Number 2 point, you see, it has properties. What are the properties of a matter? It's got only 4 properties. Remember that. A matter essential has got only 4 properties, and no matter what, at any point of time in the whole universe, it would always have these 4 properties. Even if you can't catch those properties, trust me, it still has those properties. Okay, so what are these properties? It has properties of form, it has property of taste, odor, and color, which means that a matter particle would always have a form, which is the shape. It would always have a taste. If you taste this, you will have a taste sensation. It always has a smell to it, and it always would have some or the other kind of color to it, combinations of color or some or the other color. No matter what, wherever this matter is present in any form, it will always have these 4 things. Okay, you can even experiment and test on it and see, oh, I see that this matter is colorless. Does it have a color? Does it have a taste, odor? It has. You have to believe that, because without its properties, matter cannot exist. Matter will always have these properties, no matter what, right? And we already talked about that matter is an essential, and essential will never ever lose its properties, and it's eternal. It will always maintain its properties till eternity, no matter what, right? So these are the properties properties of the matter. So wherever you go, if you see a matter, the only way for you to estimate, understand the matter is with the help of these four properties. Check out its form, check out its shape, check out how it tastes like, check out what its odor is, check out what its color is. That's how you identify these objects all around you. That's how science identifies these objects. Okay, the last point about the matter, its nature is a formation and deformation. I just talked about that, right? It would keep on aggregating and dismantling itself. So, like, imagine loads of atomic molecules. It will all combine together and form a molecule, a big structure, right? And then this molecular structure would go hit another molecule structure and would shatter into pieces, and then again small atoms would come out of it, right? So it would keep on assimilating from atoms, atomic bodies, and it would be dismantling itself from the into the atomic bodies. So these in the form of molecules will always keep on forming and deforming and creating some new products out of it. That's what the matters are doing here in the universe all the time. Look at the clouds in the sky. Look at it, its formation, and then it deforms. And then again, it forms back again into some other shape, and then it deforms. But then again, after some time, if you're doing cloud reading, you might see that the cloud is in the shape of a bird. The cloud is now in the shape of a cup. The cloud is in the shape of, right now, a moon. It can take on any form and shape. It deforms, it forms back again. That's what the property of every single matter that exists in the universe. And it will always have that. Any question on that? Anyone thinks of a matter particle which may not have these properties? Can you think of that? Any questions? I'm challenging you. Is there any matter in the universe which doesn't have these forms? Do you want to challenge me? Okay, got it. Everyone gets a concept correct. Okay, so that's the way to experimentally, with your experimental eyes, to check out what these matter particles are and how they are always retaining their properties of these four quantities, right there, four properties. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, we have about, I think we're gonna end the session in about 10 more minutes. Okay, so I will take one more slide and then I will leave up to you for, I might take, yeah, one more slide or two more slides, and then we can have some open discussion. Okay, let's move forward. One of a kind. There are certain of these essentials who are just one of a kind and not multiple forms of them. Which ones are these? These are motion essential. The motion is only one of a kind. There are no two motion essentials, only one of a kind. The Hall's essential, which makes us stop, only one of a kind. There's never in the universe going to be 3 Hall's essentials or 5 Hall's essentials or many Hall's essentials. No, there would always be only one Hall's essential ever in the whole universe. The space essential. Hey, you may say the space inside my home is different. The space inside your home is different. So that means, are there 2 different kind of space essentials existing 2 different areas? No, dear. The space is also one of a kind. No matter what, wherever you are, there will always be space there. And this whole space covering up the entire space is actually just one piece. It's one of a kind. It's only one piece. Remember that. And these are all stationary. Look at this point. They're all stationary. They don't move around. Like the clouds, they don't move around. They would always stay in the space wherever they are. They're never changing their place from one place to another. They don't move around like living beings or material objects. We move around, right? Our bodies move around. Objects move around. The cell phone moves around. Everything around us moves around, right? What we see with our naked eyes. But the non-physical essentials, the motion, halls, and space, these are only one of a kind, and they are never 2 in number, only 1. Do you see there's like one essential which I have not talked about here? Can you tell me which one it is? Yes, it is time essential. I haven't talked about it. So, to give you a clue, time is not one of a kind, and that's surprising. And that's what is mind boggling to scientists today. What is the function of this time? How come it acts in different places and different ways? That's why the time is not included as one of a kind essential. Only three essentials are included as one of a kind: the motion essential, the halt essential, and the space essential. That's it. They are one of a kind. And these are all stationary. They don't move around like living beings and material objects. Everyone clear? And everyone gets that concept clear? Give me a thumbs up. Perfect. Let's move forward. These are very, very important concepts of science. If you move forward when you grow up and you start observing things from very scientific eyes, all of these facts, these are just facts, you know. These facts will really serve you so much more because they will give you clues where science can't reach today because of its limitedness. But the science that I'm talking to you today, that acharyas have shared with us through this Tattvartha Sutra, this is like talking about anything and everything and making you unlimited in your source of knowledge and to understand things. Okay, let's take up the last slide for today. And this slide is about space which is occupied by the essentials. This is very interesting, very interesting. So look at this. I have to show you this in a diagram. Okay, so the space which is occupied by a single atom is one space unit. Look at this. So this is the whiteboard, and I'm going to write something on the whiteboard. Okay, let's go to the first point. The space which is occupied by a single atom is one space point. So imagine this is a small single atom, that little point on the board. Everyone can see that. That is occupying one space point. That's it. Imagine this whole whiteboard is the universe. Okay, it is the universe, and this universe has got one molecule of one atom. That's it, not molecule, sorry, one atom, one particle of atom. And this atom can really occupy just one point of space right here. Okay, let's move to the next one. Motion, halt, and a single living being. These three have uncountable space points. What does this mean? That means that the atom has got only one space point, but the motion, halt, and one living being has got uncountable space points. For example, a human being right here, right? So this human being in this universe is occupying how many space points? You can't even count them. It's like multiple, countable, and then it reaches an uncountable state. You can't count the space points it's occupying. It's so many, so many, so many. Every single space is being occupied, which is within its space. It's occupying that whole area inside it, and it is known as, the figure is known as uncountable. You cannot count with your physical eyes. You cannot count with any kind of instrument, no matter what. It becomes, how do you know it's uncountable? Well, you know it's uncountable because of that very special knowledge which acharyas have, right? That's through that they know it's uncountable in number. It cannot be counted no matter what. So it occupies huge large space. That's a living being. What about the halt essential? What about the motion essential? If I'm telling you this is the universe, trust me, the motion and the halt essential, from this point to this point, from this point to this point, from up to down, from back and forth, every single point in the whole universe, every single point that you can imagine, not even a single space left, is all occupied by the motion, halt essentials. So that's why this whole unit is also called as uncountable. So this unit is also uncountable, which is occupied by a single living being, and the whole space occupied by the halt and the motion essential is also uncountable. So the uncountable actually is like huge. It comes from that small portion to a huge, but it's still uncountable number of space. You cannot count any space point in it. Third point, look at this one. Matter occupies countable and uncountable space units, which excludes an atom, which means that an atom would always occupy just one space point, right? It is also a matter, but we are not including it here, okay? But look at any object here. How many space points is it occupying? I told you, uncountable space points, right? There are some matter which has countable space points. What does this mean? Do you know about how water is made? Let me tell you science. So there are two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. When it combines together, it forms H2O. Okay, so one particle of H2O is occupying how much space? It's occupying 2 plus 1, 3 space points. So we can count this space point, right? So some of these or many of these matter particles, we can actually count these space points. Does anyone have a question right now? Put yourself to a video if you have a question, because I can't see that. Okay, so do we get that? Why do we call matter as having uncountable and countable space points? For example, you cannot count the number of space points inside a cloud. It's pretty huge, and the number of space points occupied by the cloud is like uncountable in number. But the number of space occupied by H2 by an H2 atom or an oxygen atoms is countable. You can count those space points. That's why it's both countable and uncountable space points which is occupied by the matter. But when it comes to an atom, then we just say that it's countable, or it's just like one piece of atom occupying just one space point. Space. How about space? How many space units it has? Well, the space is larger than you can imagine. If I'm telling you this is space, then this is the universal space. So the universal space has got countable space points, but there is space beyond the universe also. So when you add that space to this space inside the universe, then the space becomes unlimited. It occupies unlimited number of space points, and it also has a body. Remember the first slide we did, the space has a very, very large body, correct? So the space has got a body which, if combined together with the universal space and the outside universal space, it's got unlimited. That's why we call it that space has got infinite number of space points, unending. It's never ending. It will always be there. Okay, you can't count them on fingers. It's there. It's like infinite numbers. And then the last point, a single time unit. Okay, let's talk about the time essential right now. That's very important. And as we move forward, we will understand why this time unit is so magical in nature. A single time unit occupies only one space point. So just like an atom occupying one space point, the single particle of time occupies also one space point. What does that mean? What does that mean? That means in one point of space here, one object of, one time essential is there. Okay, so if there is, like, suppose this box here, and in this box, I don't know if you can see that. I can't see that in the picture. Suppose this is a box here, right? So how many time units are in the box? Actually, if you, every single space point which this box occupies, on every single space point, there's one time unit sitting on it. So there is like so many space points occupied by the time. But actually, when we say that a single time unit will always occupy just one space unit, never ever more than one big space unit. So in this box, if I ask you how much space is motion essential occupying, it's occupying uncountable number of space points inside this box. Halt essential is occupying uncountable. It's got a large body. Its whole body is covering up the whole space out here, right? But it's not so with the time essential. Time essential does not occupy the whole space inside it, right? There's just one teeny mini point, and a time essential would sit on that point and would occupy just that space point. And then adjacent to it, there's one more point, and then the time essential will occupy that second point, and that second point will have an individual time essential which is very unique by itself. The two time essentials are two different time units. Three time essentials are three different time units. Four time essentials are four different time units. Millions and millions of time particles are millions of units occupying inside the space. But look at this. How do the jewels occupy the space inside a treasure box? This is the treasure box right here, right? Imagine these small little crystals occupying the space inside the jewel box. It's filled up, the whole box is filled up these treasures, right? So you see, every single crystal is occupying its own space. That's what the time unit does. Every single time unit inside the treasure box is occupying its own space, just like these crystals occupying its own space. So there are so many number of time units out there, right? So that's what we learned about the spaces that these essentials occupy. Very important to know, otherwise we will never understand the concept of time and space and how do they interact and what happens with them. So my question to you is, and within my next slide, and I also have an answer for you right here for our last slide, what is the biggest and the smallest entity in the whole wide world? By now you have the answer, right? The biggest entity in the world is space, and the smallest entity is an atom. Okay, here we are talking about an atom which is indivisible. Okay, we are not talking about the atom which science talks about, right? Because according to Jain science, an atom cannot be divided further into any other molecules or any other electrons or protons. If there is an electron and proton, trust me, there are more atoms inside it which made up that electron. So when the science will advance and will have advanced instruments, it might find out that what we search till now as electrons and protons and this and that, it is not the ultimate particles. There are more particles inside them which cause them to be an ultimate. That's what Jain science calls as an atom. So refer to an atom as Parmanu, or as a particle of matter which is the minutest in nature, and it is indivisible, cannot be divided any further. So it's the smallest unit. So the whole wide universe, the biggest space occupied is by the space entity, the space essential, and the smallest space occupied is by an atom unit. Correct? Everyone gets that. That's how we're going to end today's session. And I will have 5 to 10 minutes for you. If you guys have any questions for me, then please move forward and ask. And let me escape this presentation for now. And how do I make it big? Stop sharing. Perfect. Okay, let's chit chat. Let's talk. Everyone out there, we have 25 participants here. All of you have been listening to the whole conversation about the non-physical entities and their nature, their properties, everything we have been talking about, the matter. What is your question to me? How can I answer you in scientific format? Okay, Prasham is asking, I think that go back to the last slide. You can ask me what it is. I'm not turning the slide on right now. Do you want me to unmute you? So hard to understand this. It's a chat is here. Participants. Okay, raise your hands. Now I can see you. If your hand is raised, then I will be able to unmute you. Any questions, any interesting facts you want to know about the universe and the nature? Anusha has a question. What is it?
Like, remember you asked us if there was any type of matter that wasn't a matter. So like
that wouldn't have the properties of form, taste, color, and order.
Yeah. So
okay, so
like
Anusha's question is, what about water? Water is, people say that water is colorless, right? And you say that no matter what, these will always have color or something, right? Well, truly telling you, water does have a color. Okay, it's not colorless, and it is a combination of certain unique colors that gives it that particular color. And actually you will see that water keeps on changing its colors. Wherever, whatever format or container you put the water in, it takes up its color. Correct? So water does have a color. It's not colorless. Just because it takes up the color of the objects or the containers it is in doesn't mean that water is colorless. You get me? Have you ever seen a colorless water? Where and how? You can't even see it. If you want to see the water, you would see it running through the tap. And what will show and reflect through the tap? Something which is of the background color would reflect through it, right? If you put the water into a glass, what will reflect? It will show the color of the container, but that's what the color water retains. So water keeps on changing its color, but there is always a color to it. Now listen, water's body has a color. If water as a living being, as a soul, the soul doesn't have a color. It's only the body of the water which has the color. Do you get that answer? Give me a thumbs up.
There's a second.
That's better.
Oh, skateboard.
Okay. Any other questions anyone has? Raise your hand. Someone may say that even water is like formless, right? But no, water will always take up the form of the container it is in. Haven't we studied from the science? No matter which container you put the water in, if you spill the water, it will take the form of whatever space it is provided from this end to this end. It will still take a shape of wherever it falls down. It will always have a shape. All good to go? Perfect. See you tomorrow now. And we're going to learn something, which is, let me tell you what, we're going to learn about what is the space entity, what is it made out of, what is matter, what is space inside the universe, and what about the space outside the universe? What is anti-universe? Is there anything such as black holes or cosmic particles floating around in the universe out there? I'm going to learn so much more tomorrow. See you by then. And let's just quickly join our hands because we are actually doing a Swadhyay of a Shastraji. So right now I'm going to do just 2-line Mangalacharan from Tattvartha Sutra. So if you know about this, speak with me. Otherwise, just join your hands and pay attention. Moksha margasya netaram bhetaram karma bhubratam ज्ञातारं विश्वतत्त्वानां वन्दे तद्गुणलब्धये. Jai Jinesh, everyone. Enjoy. See you tomorrow.